let's chat about attribution and like the definition. There's something to unpack here because you kind of mentioned one of the thesis or the ideas behind the 2025 State of Marketing Attribution report was that you kept seeing on LinkedIn all these like talking heads saying, attribution is dead. And when most people hear the term attribution, they immediately go to multi-touch attribution, MTA, and this like whole world of assigning credit. And I can't blame those people because, I was in that camp not too long ago myself before a lot of the guests that I had on the show in this big exploration that I did on MTA. And they kind of like opened or enlightened me a little bit. And I can't blame those people because, like, if you were to Google, well, we'll put up some screenshots here, but like if you Google or ask ChatGPT, like, what is marketing attribution? You get what you expect. Like, marketing attribution is the process of identifying, assigning credit to marketing touch points. If you ask ChatGPT, what is attribution in the context of marketing? And marketing attribution is figuring out which touch points influence the customer's decision. So right away, Google and ChatGPT, they're both thinking that by asking attribution, you're thinking of MTA. But MTA is just one of the methods of attribution. Attribution means figuring out what marketing efforts drove revenue or business outcomes. You're connecting spend to or campaigns to revenue. And when you kind of like coin it like that with ChatGPT, like, no, I didn't ask you for the definition of multi-touch attribution. I was asking marketing attribution. Isn't MTA just one of those methods? Got it. Yeah, you're right. Let's zoom out. Marketing attribution is
It's
the
agreeable. It
discipline.
always agrees with
Yeah,
you.
always. Yeah. But yeah, so when someone writes one of those posts and you saw those like attribution is being dead, for the folks that know that attribution is just like the discipline of tying marketing to revenue, they look a bit silly by saying attribution is dead, right? But my question to you is that like there is an argument, and you kind of talk about this in the report. There is an argument when it comes to the question of is multi-touch attribution dead, or what's the meaningfulness of it? Because this whole method of assigning credit and creating, like you said, this internal tug of war over credit between sales and marketing. So, what advice do you have for shifting the mindset from blaming, credit claiming to using like attribution for learning and decision making? Long winded question there. What are your thoughts there, Nadia?
I think if we take a step back and kind of first assess what is attribution in general, it's a framework. Business is built on frameworks. You have to have frameworks. None of them are perfect. George Box's quote comes to mind: all models are flawed, some are more useful than others, right? But it's a framework and it's a tool to answer certain questions. And I feel like when the concept became popularized and democratized by all of these tools that had an MTA, some sort of MTA or attribution module in them. Think about Google Ads. It had its own thing. It will tell you how your campaigns are performing, right? Then you look at HubSpot. They had something. You have Marketo. You have Salesforce. Like Meta, everybody had some kind of attribution tool, ABM platforms that allowed you to see how well that platform is driving whatever it is that you're driving with that platform, right? And it democratized this concept and it simplified it, where they said, oh, this is for everyone. This is so simple. A no data scientist can do it, no problem. And I understand that. But we have to be mindful about things that are free with purchase, right? I went to a makeup store, got some makeup, and they said, today we have this promotion. We're giving out lipstick. It's free with purchase. She shows me the colors, and they're the most hideous colors, but they're free. Take it, right? I mean, I took it. It's not that I'm going to use it, but it's the same kind of concept, right? Because you're given it for free, it's not there to be precise, to embody how the framework came about, and it's a data science framework, right? It's a methodology developed by data scientists. So for you to be able to even configure all of your stuff right, where it's not just the HubSpot's eye of Mordor looking into the universe that HubSpot can see, or the Google eye of Mordor, right? Seeing the whole Mordor using the Lord of the Rings framework, right? You have to see the entire Middle Earth. And can you see that? No, you can't. You can see slivers of it. So I feel like a lot of people tried that. And as I was talking to people, during the kind of the data compilation part of the research, I noticed that on the SMB side, that is very prevalent. And why is it so? It's because in SaaS companies, smaller companies, you usually have one person who is doing demand gen and a little bit of MarOps and dabbles with systems, right? And that person has to be the jack of all trades, who is, by the way, master of none. But we don't want to say that second part, right? Jack of all trades. You have to be good at everything. And then you never get it 100% because you're lacking resources. Your data is all over the place, and there's just not enough time in the day to even dedicate to data, right? You may not be able to understand the business questions that you ask and translate that into the types of data that you want to collect to build the model and the framework that works. So, like, the failure rate is so high. But you have all these businesses, small and medium size, that are numerous, that are out there, that all tried things, and they just came up with disappointments and they're disillusioned. And their boss says, well, what are the results of this? Well, it doesn't work. It's dead. I tried and I just couldn't come up with anything that's meaningful, right? They get laughed out of the rooms, the sales doesn't believe, and just goes on and on and on and on. Now, well, actually, I will make one more comment here. And I've had some good friends of mine that come from that world, that grew up in the world of smaller business, technology, very data savvy. They're like, this is just nonsense. And they're very convinced. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to argue with you because what's the point? I understand you lived in the world of Google Ads your entire life. You drove digital stuff. You never worked for enterprise. And you never had those conversations that required you to present some kind of a framework and drive the argument, or like this, kind of debate style discussion from the point of view of a framework, right? However, when you look at enterprises, in the report, it says 75 or somewhere, almost 8 out of 10 enterprises still use multi-touch attribution. They don't have a problem with that. I mean, they got their 15 to 17 platforms on average that all are collecting data. They have resources, they have analysts, they have data scientists that can configure, set things up. They have technology. If they don't have data science, they have technology that's more advanced, that's not the free lipstick with purchase, right? That you set up specifically for your go-to market. And for those enterprises, another interesting thing was that they don't use just one model, MTA, right? They would use multiple because there are multiple questions that they want to answer. And again, it's not like I feel like the market goes into this panacea mode, right? ABM, it was, oh, ABM saved us, right? Didn't save us. Then it's SEO, then, well, actually the other way around. Then it's AI, right? And then there's this disillusionment comes, like the Gartner hype cycle. It's such a great concept to visualize that. And I feel like MTA was that. Like, finally, I can justify my things. Oh, wait, this doesn't match. The tool says that my attributed revenue is twice the size of my pipeline in Salesforce. And I never bothered to look. Oh, maybe I don't even have a seat because I'm in a small business and, I don't need a seat in Salesforce. I go with my spreadsheet or my HubSpot report to the meeting with sales and, quarterly, and they laugh at me because their pipeline is half, right? Like all of those nuances. And I've lived that life. And I saw that I've been in small companies, I've been in big companies. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in how you even drive this narrative. And if you're reporting into a CMO, and in my case, my last 2 roles, I was reporting into the CMO, and being that arm to create the reporting, to help drive data stewardship, to translate what it is that they're being asked into numbers and, the other way around, that's a very different approach. You learn to appreciate methodologies, and they're flawed. If they were 100%, everybody could do it, right? Everybody out of high school could take a job and be a marketer. I mean, vibe marketing is there. I mean, that might do it.
Totally.
But, it's essentially you have to be responsible with the data that you have, and responsible in a way where you understand what it means. You understand the limitations. You set those expectations with others who may be less data savvy or may not have the kind of the sophistication needed. And this is in no way negative, right? But sophistication meaning like the depth of knowledge within the industry. And you help them understand, you help them bridge the gap. And if you don't have that data stewardship or that data acumen, and you don't know how to help people see that, it doesn't matter what framework you use, it will all fall apart eventually.
Yeah. I like to think about it 2 ways. Like, on one hand, you have the big boardroom story where you have multi-touch attribution, and you must explain to the board why what you did with your budget was so successful. And, no hate to that. A lot of marketers get put in that position. We gave you all this money, prove it, show us what you did with it. So they say, okay, MTA. And then there's the other side, which is the actual practitioner side, where people know, just like you said, that, MTA is a directional tool that gives you data about what's happening. And then you must decide what to do with it. And, not only is it not going to be 100%, I love what you said. You use multiple models. It could be time decay, U-shape, linear, whatever, or even different implementation models to try to get a direction or of what to do. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters to practitioners. What are we going to do next? And I think that's the people really using attribution in the right way are thinking in that way.